Ridiculous stuff there. Scented knows that he's got this duo hot on his heels. Found the Frenziato, gets one little clipping there into Wick.
Oh my
Wick
God.
nearly getting the better end of Scented. But now, Tahi, Scented, they've at least managed to find the first elimination. That's gonna force Savzi fend for himself here. Not sure if it's gonna be an easy task for him to try and collect Wick's reboot card either. But for Scented and Tahi, they've had pressure here at Classy Courts all day long. And it's only gonna continue to pick up here, I'd imagine. But for a team like Miro and Cooper, that has also been contested here at the Marigold, but Veer and Sonido so heavily outdropped that they also opted for a swerve off instead.
Yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the fact that Miro and Cooper are not going to get those early game tags. This might be something that works against them all in all. Before they had a different situation, but hold up, Convict and Vanilla's a bit of a battle here up against Crackly and Forever Zone Wars, just giving us some early game entertainment right now. Nothing's gonna conclude here. This is like a continuation, I feel like, of Crackly's semifinals story. They were contested here all throughout the lower bracket. They continue to be contested here. Seems like in the grand finals now, and it's just pretty tough to play this one out. Meanwhile, talking about contested storylines, one that's even more important is Cold and Acorn. Can't help but start to root for this team and really feel like Acorn could do it again.
Acorn maybe even catching a glimpse of the fact that at least one of the duos contesting them here at Fencing Fields has chosen to venture away. But you likely also saw another duo. So you have to expect, okay, Muzz, Paper, Mason, and Pen. One of these teams is leaving. The other somewhat following, because it seemed as if Mason and Empen were going to give a little bit more chase there for a moment into Buzz and Paper, but instead they fall back, keeping in mind that it's really all about that mythic striker and getting the medallion over at Fencing Fields. But the mythic striker, just such an incredibly strong weapon to be able to utilize throughout the course of a match. And for the last game of the day as well, you know that Acorn and Cold are going to want to set themselves up for day 2. But it's just not going to come by them easy.
Thinking about this point spread is pretty competitive here, even within the top 20. That one good game, even for Batman Booga Rapid here, all of a sudden they have a chance tomorrow as the points start to really elevate. Any team can throw themselves well into the top 10, comfortable for the fight for it all. Baka and Pars, very different position that we've seen them in any other game so far. So you can tell that they're taking this game a little bit differently, a little bit more seriously, not trying to 50-50 everything away, as is Muzz and Paper here, going back to the trusty fit. But look, they leave the drop quick, Taco, and they're just like, hey, we'd rather just play this game out. We need to just stay alive.
Look, the last time that Paper had this outfit on, he was looking like the sniper in the lobby, okay? And he's got a sniper in his loadout currently. He already found one elimination onto a team that likes to drop at Ruin Reels. It was going to be Bacon first to fall at the Ruin Reels. You can see TK left as a solo. Hasn't been spotted out just yet by Muzz or Paper. But Cooper and Miro, they've also got their own prerogatives here. Next to Pleasant Yaza is Cooper. A little bit of elevation here, can oversee this box fight taking place below. And he's itching for that third-party opportunity, because the forecast towers, once they come into play, I have to expect that's what Cooper and Miro are likely setting up for currently.
Yeah, not only that, they're holding his van too. So like if there is a solo lurking about, I mean, they're not just gonna give it to anyone for free. They would likely want to chase someone out with the grapple hooks. All in all, very key positioning here. Great spot to be in right now to kind of determine the pacing of this last game for day number 1.
And like I just mentioned, Forecast Tower gonna be the focus for this secondary zone. Reet, though, way off from Ritual. Just trying to confirm a little bit of excess materials, excess loot in the surrounding area. Peterbot and Pollo also gonna be able to claim another Forecast Tower for the final match of the day. And when you think about the fact that this is a team where in 2 separate lobbies now, they've had access to that Forecast Tower, and they're the only team to be able to repeat a Victory Royale in our first day of grants. So, Monster, 3rd time's the charm, possibly. If Peterbot and Pollo are after a 3rd Victory Royale, that Forecast Tower is going to be one of the best ways to set themselves up for it.
Razni Yamzo on the move right now. Very much split up from one another here. Everyone is just trying to get their game in motion so far. Meanwhile, on the feed, though, Muzz finds Cam. So eliminations happening, which is very much critical to Muzz and Paper's success, right? Really think about it. They gave up their drop, which means that they're completely playing, you know, an off-the-cuff rotation and route right now, and it's turning out to be successful. Freeze finds Scented in the feed too, so another big elimination there, and likely the end of the run for some teams that had a chance up at the top 10.
At least as far as day 1 is concerned. But you touched on it at the start of this match. MDF, 1.5 times point multiplier is definitely nothing to snooze on. So even for some of these teams that might find themselves outside of that top 5 in the leaderboard, because we have definitely been seeing a little bit of a point disparity build up already here in day 1, but it's maintaining that, which could be difficult once that point multiplier comes into action. Good positional play here out of Tahi. Clearly wants to get Scented back into the lobby. Actually be able to pick up a decent amount of loot as well. Might have been Scented's leftover after he got elimed, but Tahi, it's all about making a play for the reboot van. That'll be the focus.
Reboot van's important. Uga and Aviv right now, playing the outskirts here, still holding on to their top 5 position. Talk about point disparities, you can see how things start to really jump up. A 30-point difference between 5th and 4th. Doesn't mean you can count them out, but here's Ritual. I like that they're taking a fight earlier now before things get a little chaotic and they actually win this engagement. This is going to set themselves up for success right here. This is going to allow them to have that comfort, have that damage that they need to at least create a runway to play for the positioning, take advantage of their Forecast Tower. Muzz and Paper are listening nearby, but Acorn and Cold also in a troublesome situation here. We've seen Acorn and Cold already have a problem against Edgy and Tavern, who ambushed them before, but now look like they're starting to position up for some revenge here.
But this is going to be a combat cache fight that Cold and Acorn most definitely kind of need. If you look at the hard materials, Cold doesn't have as much metal as he would probably like. So if they're able to confirm this cache, that will definitely make up the difference here. So can't expect Cold or Acorn to fall back anytime soon. Edgy Tavern maybe recognizing the fact that they're just too little too late towards this engagement. Could still look for a fight after the fact, because Cold and Acorn will be able to confirm the cache no problem, since they were the first to pounce upon it, having already been local to fencing fields. And yeah, that's gonna be the break off. Tavern Edgy coming up short here. Probably a pretty stiff blow as well, because if they're making a play for the cache and just giving up the engagement like that, not even opting to try and force their way into the boxes there for Acorn and Cold, so they're not getting surge tag damage, they're not getting materials, they're seemingly going to be forced into an engagement at some point or another. given what they missed out on from that cache.
Yeah, things get pretty bad. Talk about weapons cache fights. The Amzo and Rise are also looking to battle it for here as well. They catch the upgrades. They got the extra heals, and the metal, of course, is available to them. But I think more importantly right now is the fact that they need to catch a set of eliminations here. Start getting that damage counter up as we are approaching the later stages of the game. Most of these rounds have started off pretty quickly, and now we're catching the final game pressure start to truly settle in here. Things are slowing down here, but that doesn't mean the surge is going to allow people to get comfortable for too long. Ultimately, you will have to fight here, and we are just minutes away from things getting extremely chaotic here. Death and Polar as a top 10 team. Taco looking relatively okay, but not the greatest. They too have some problems here ahead of them.
And it's almost kind of crazy to think about too, because when you start off the day with just so much outright aggression pouring in from what felt like every direction from all of these teams, and for it to now just practically come to a halt here, a lot of these teams essentially putting themselves now MDF in a position where they're basically waiting out for that surge threshold to come into play. And if you're taking your chances on whether or not you've done enough damage to avoid being caught up in the chaoticness that occurs once the surge comes into play, it might be tough to come by for some of these teams, like what we saw there from Death and Polarize, because they were alone. Nobody nearby. Teams looking for dead side rotations, or teams that are just at these uncontested drops. If their struggle today has been maintaining a healthy surge damage threshold, well, that'll be something for consideration in VOD review tonight. Because again, a set lobby, especially a grand set lobby, is always going to be an entirely different beast when it comes to maintaining a surge strategy.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say I don't like it. I think all of our top 5 leaderboard leaders at the moment, they have to do more. They have to be a little bit more aggressive and honestly get out there and just take it at this point, because otherwise, you called it correctly, they're going to be under some serious trouble of other teams that will need to fight too. And if they don't start sooner rather than later, they are just going to give away this nice lead that they've found themselves in. Clicks and Epic Whale is very much included in that conversation as well. Look at how, sure, they have some tags, but they're sitting next to 4 duos, them being one of them. Why, right? Like, why put yourself in such risk? And look at who it is. Re and Ritual, Crisp and Noxy. 2 teams of which are very much comfortably inside the top 10. And then you have, of course, Ozone and Golden up above, who can easily throw their hat in the conversation, right? This is just all types of trouble waiting to unfold, and here it is.
I like the way, though, that Epic Whale was looking to create a little bit of distance from that conglomerate of teams. Just utilizing some of the natural faces, that cliff face, providing some good coverage for him and Clicks to rotate through the low ground. But Death and Polarized, they've got a little bit more of a direct approach here, trying to deal with the likes of Jiven and Pickle. And I hope Destiny Jesus has been able to formulate some kind of a strategy for his team that he's coaching there in Jiven and Pickle, because it's definitely been a rough first day. And Polarize only looking to try and increase the problems here that Jiven and Pickle have been up against. But Death actually finding himself knocked full elim now. Polarize stuck inside of their box, trying to see if he can hold on. Maybe a little bit of an assistance coming through from Booga and Aviv there for Jiven and Pickle. So you can see them seemingly wanting to rotate, possibly looking to get a little bit more aggressive here with this engagement.
Yeah, I'll say it right now. Any team going 2-2, head-to-head against Jiven and Pickle are just not going to have a fair chance at all right now. They are playing very, very exceptionally well when it comes down to these early game engagements. This is why they're kind of in the middle of the pack and will likely have a better day 2 as they get to do the homework tonight. Well, let's jump over Cooper and Mira, who have actually gotten their hands dirty for a second there. But it doesn't matter. Look at how they're sitting on all of this excess material here. Likely a weapons cache that was rewarded to them. They carried back, hauled back all that loot. And now they have Kanata and Aegis. A desperate Kanata and Aegis, I might add. As Kanata and Aegis have unfortunately been eliminated off drop at least twice, giving them a much harder foundation to stand on in this game. Mira and Cooper are, of course, our team in the lead, though. They have everything to gain here by jumping on this team right now, because with 54 above the surge, that's not going to survive the test of time here much longer. And this team inching their way upwards is showing them that they also have to fight.
Mira and Cooper, though, recognizing the fact that Kanata started to get some overhead on them.
They're getting ready.
Now looking for a little bit more of a challenge here to pose into the likes of Mira and Cooper. And yeah, like you said,
he's setting up the box fight. He's just like, let's do it. He's like, let's do it. I got all the space. Look, they put no walls in between them. He wants the room to work with, to move around, to look for side angles, find a feed tag. Like, this is exactly what they wanted to do. And look, this is where Mira wants to be. That is exactly what he wants to do to you. Take the one-on-one, catch you off guard, and finish the fight just that quick.
And now, because of all these pre-existing builds underneath, Miro, though, still getting a massive shot in onto Aegis. Cooper as well, making sure to tag team alongside his duo. But we saw Mira and Cooper, they had that entire territory that they were setting up for the box fight engagement, MDF, and Aegis and Kanata playing right into the palm of their hands.
The crash pad, to crash pad into, you know, an offensive play is actually incredible to watch play out at a high level like that. You just really don't see it coming. More often than not, a duo drops the crash pad. Dude, they're getting out of there. They're not trying to fight you. But you're talking about Cooper and Miro here. Little did you know, right?
Miro didn't even have the frenzy auto, by the way. That was all hammer pump action as well. So definitely an impressive double elimination secured there by Cooper and Miro. Another team looking to do something of the same effort. It's Yamzo and Rise. Yamzo, a couple of issues with the crash pad, but he's got a grapple blade also. Clicks, though, on the other hand, finds one knock onto threats. Dukes still up and running, but for how much longer is the real question here, because Clicks, having lost Epic, you know he's going to be out to try and sabotage Dukes' odds of getting that revive off onto threats. Dukes forced to pause his revive for the time being. So much pressure from Clicks, and the Mythic Frenzy wins those almost every time, but in Clicks' case, this time was the only success story he really needed. Avenge Epic Whale in the process, and now a decent amount of materials, some good supplies as well. Medkit gonna go off, no problem. Clicks has just got to cut his way into the next zone. He's definitely stacked enough to do so as a solo, though.
And it's crazy. He has options right now with those extra heals here to, for sure, rat out some placement points, and he needs it. He's going to need every single position point he can gain, and right now it's not quite rewarded just yet. We got to get into that top 25, and more importantly, close to that top 15.
He broke into the top 5, though, off of that play alone.
That is true. Earning more points, at least it's not a, you know, a net negative game, to say the least. Okay, Acorn and Cold not looking to even build that back wall. Curious to see if they're going to return some fire, but back on over to Reed and Richard. We're at 3 eliminations. This game really taking it by storm. And you have to really appreciate the fact that they've continued to adjust game after game. No 2 games in the 6th round, you know, the 6 we've seen so far, it's been the same, especially for them, from being contested to being, you know, having issues with Storm Surge, and then all types of the gauntlet they've gone through, even working their way up to, of course, that Victory Royale. So very interesting to say the least. Back on over to Clicks, though, who, like we just mentioned, has pressure coming in. You saw that team see him and then decide to key in. They know he's a solo, and they're close on his heels. Oh no.
It initially seemed a little bit promising, but just too much pressure, too much focus brought his way there. Flick's unlucky finish in this final match. It would be hard for him and Epic Whale to hold that 5th place in the leaderboards. All depends on how some of these other teams hovering that top 5 actually managed to do in our final game of day number 1 here of NA's Grand Finals. Tavern hiding out, but Yamzo, Rise, they've got their sights set on this solo. Acorn as well, next to Cold, trying to see if they could get credit for that elimination. Acorn actually gonna split just a little bit too far from Cold, finds himself becoming a focal point as well, which should have just been a clean pickoff onto Tavern, now results in Cold losing his duo.
Yeah, this is a pretty tight situation to be in here when you have such a prominent lead over the competition. To give it away this soon is definitely going to be one that's going to haunt you for the night. You want to end the night comfortably above the rest, and now it's all up to Cold here. The pressure is on, but we've seen him continue to perform in these types of situations. He is by all means a fantastic endgame player, and he's here right now, but he's got trouble knocking on the door. He's got Yamzo potentially already pushing up. Rise here as well. We know Yamzo and Rise have proven to be 2 of the deadliest on the region right now when it comes down to endgame and what they're capable of in the low ground. Can't count them out. Body of water is going to force everyone across. You got a grapple hook, you're happy. Otherwise, this is going to be a very precarious situation to be in. But hold up, Yamzo and Rise below the surge here. Taco, they will have to fight.
No, this is plays of desperation right now from Yamzo. Rise forced to try and get his heals up, but that's going to cost them time. While Yamzo's waiting for Rise to resustain, they're missing opportunities on these teams that are already rotating, where they could have been taking shots to try and get themselves above that surge threshold. You could see Yamzo hesitating because he didn't want to split too far from Rise, didn't want to risk losing his duo when he fell so low on HP. And Cold, if he's not careful with making sure to maintain that surge as well, could also find himself being a victim. As now Miro, Cooper, still hanging a little bit more towards the mid-ground layers. Nobody making a play just yet for height, but with the way that this zone is pulling back and forth over the body of water, it's tough to keep track of height.
More importantly, it's tough to navigate these end games here as a solo. When you're a Vive here, you're just burning through your material, having to expand ever more further. Still playing it very much safe here, not trying to find himself under any enemy builds. Yamzo and Rise have worked their way up to second height, and so has Cold. Cold is still in this game, by the way. Top 17 now. We already saw how difficult it is to make these types of plays as a solo, and Aviv is in this conversation here too. So far, so good here. Miro and Cooper continue to march their way to the tune of their own song, but Cooper hurt big time here, finds himself right in between a world of trouble. Re and Ritual down low, the juggernauts that are comfortable up above, and the surge now active for the remaining few that haven't done enough. But Cold continues to do enough to at least stay in this game here, to stay in the conversation, to continue to earn points. Mira and Cooper fall somehow before Cold, giving him a runway here to earn more points.
And Cold, it's a blessing in disguise here for him as well. And use that Flowberry Fizz, just trying to do what he can to maintain staying towards the front side of these moving zones. No one seeming to spot out this solo just yet. And it's Quanti and Byla who have ultimate high ground currently. Rise and Yamzo on a completely different layer, but they are just tearing through everyone they encounter. A massive pickoff as far as point eliminations are concerned. But Rise and Yamzo, they're still moving. And Aviv can't be said for them because that's going to be an easy elimination. Solo in the backside, no chance.
Fully finished. Cole also gets taken out to the hands of Baka. So Baka and Pars also earning points here to get back inside that top 10 to start their day off to a strong number 2. But it's Rise and Yamzo right now who are literally climbing to the occasion here, trying to get that first place spot as Cooper and Miro is out of the game. Cold and Acorn are no longer a factor here, and so is Re and Ritual, looking to make up for the downed game in the previous run. But Rise and Yamzo could be setting themselves up for this victory royale right here. We could be seeing repeat performances, back-to-backs happen here for teams that are consistent enough. Reed and Ritual now taking the low ground fight. These points are worth a lot. Reed's gonna be so upset he misses the edits there, but Yamzo falls to a huge tag, not before Rise finishes off Suscript, so the trades are real. A solo here, right next to Rise, and the pressure's on. Luke falls from above. He needs those materials, but it's not gonna be enough. And Reed and Ritual continue to rack up here, and they need these points more than anyone else, and down goes Baka. Pars is a solo now in the water here, and the damage is done.
But way up above, all this calamity taking place in the low ground, it's going to be Quanti up top. Byla looking to try and ruin Re and Ritual's opportunity for another victory around the day. Byla gets some decent damage into Re, but now it's all hinging upon whether or not Quanti has enough heals to sustain this one out. Ritual gonna have to wait with this final medkit. Quanti actually opting to drop to the low ground, finds Ritual, but he needs to get the finishing blow. Ritual gonna box up immediately, and it's just enough space. It's just enough between him and Quanti at the end. An unfortunate story for Quanti and Byla as they watch the 6th lobby of the day slip away from them, but a second place finish, nothing to beat themselves up over.
I promise you, my jaw dropped and Ritual is walking with the medkit out in the open for information. I just couldn't believe he was willing to throw it all for a second there, and he gets tagged first and still somehow manages to turn that engagement around. You just don't win those, but Ritual is different. He hits the tag that matters most right here, and then he just holds the wall. That is all he had to do, so he gets the credit to Reed and Ritual. Do it again to put them back inside, likely of the top 5 here, Taco.
Look, we've been